Hello, everyone. Welcome to another season of Lit in English. Understand your inner self. Welcome back. I can't believe it's been three season already. This is going to the third one. Thank you for being here. Thanks for joining us. I can see Vanessa said good morning, Ben and everyone. Yes, good morning. It is like 2 a.m. there. I don't know if you get to sleep at all. But thanks for joining us. We appreciate you joining us. I know is there's a difference in the time zone, but having you here meaning that you find value in our program, and I greatly appreciate it. And yes, and welcome everyone. This is the a Zoom meeting for Lit in English season three, and we are going to do about a 12 days program to complete this season three, and this is a very important accomplishment because after this season we will be able to share the four principle and the three semantic reference system in English. And as many of you has already know, these are the uh, the seven pillars to understanding your inner self, and that is how we are able to take back control of our life. This is how we are going to materialize the thing that are important to us. And I would like to say thanks to everyone one more time because this is very important to me. And together we will be able to have a better understanding of these topics. And also, this is how we are going to spread out these important knowledge, these important information to every corner of the world because I know there are people who needing this, and this is a reason that we are doing this. And once again, thanks for joining us, and let's get right to it. So, like usual, we I would like to introduce you to the very first principle, and it's not really a principle, but it's an introductory of the six barriers. And hello, and Jiao Tan. All right. So the sixth barrier is something that we need to cover first because like in life when we often have ideas, right? We often have dream. There are often things that are very important to us, and we tend to make excuses. We tend to avoid making it a reality. And it is important to know what they are so that we can break through those barriers so that we can get to the journey that we needed to get to the destination that we needed to get to, and most importantly to do the thing that our heart desire. All right, if you have a pen and paper, I would like to invite you to draw along with me because doing that you will understand the topic better. So let's start by drawing a stick figure with arm and leg. And surrounding this stick figure, I would like to draw the sixth barrier. And I have many different hand color here. Therefore, I will use six different color to represent the sixth barrier. And it is important to have a visualize of this barrier. And we will define it too. We will call its name. We will make it very clear of what they are. And by doing so, we will have a greater understanding of exactly what they are and how to deal with it. So this would be three. And this would be four. And during the Zoom call, feel free to raise your hand if you have any question or if you have um, anything that you would like to share which related to the topic. Because the best way to learn is to learn from one another, and your question or your story might be able to help other as well. Other people might have the same question. Therefore, feel free to raise your hand or type on our chat. All right, so that would be the six barriers. Yeah. All right, so these will be on the sixth barrier, and the very first one, the first one that I would like to talk about first is this is called limiting belief. So limiting belief is a set of beliefs that often limit ourselves from doing things that are meaningful to us. And this is one of the largest barriers because a lot of time there are dreams, there are things that are very important to us, but we didn't think that they are important to us because we put a limit to what we can do, right? So there's a lot of things that we know. There are a few things that we believe, but limiting beliefs are the invincible one, right? For example, let's say other people believe that you can speak English very well, right? For example, let's say I believe that you can speak English very well. I believe that you can understand English. But if you have the limiting belief of not able to speaking English in a very professional way, then it doesn't even exist in your mind. Therefore, you might not even think of it. And in actuality, whatever whatever the whatever the thing that you wanted to get to is might not even exist in your mind, and you will not be able to get it. And I learned this from one of the story that I have read in a psychology book, and they were discussing about a story of the way Thailand, like Thai people, train the elephant, and the scientist was very surprised of how the elephant obeying the trainer, and they was very surprised when they go to Thailand and they saw that there's a very big elephant, and on its back leg they tie a very small rope, but the elephant tend to stay in its place and it doesn't try to break away. And they did some more research and they found down that the way Thai people train the elephant is that they train the elephant when they was very young, and the elephant didn't like it when it was tied into a small area. So the elephant tried to break away from those ropes, but it wasn't able to. So after a few days, the young elephant gave up, and the young elephant only just play around that area. So when the elephant grow bigger, it it believes that no matter how hard it try, it will not be able to break through that tiny rope, and it will just obeying um, the area that it get located to. And I was very amazed when I heard this story because obviously the elephant is very powerful, right? It can break away very easily, but because of the mentality, because of how it was trained from when it was very young, it it doesn't try to break away anymore because of its limiting belief. It doesn't believe that it can break through that rope, which is a barrier. Therefore, the barrier number one, limiting belief, it is one of the greatest because it is almost like uh, an invincible wall or an invincible ceiling. You know how like your room it has a ceiling or your house. Limiting belief is kind of like that. It is something that you don't even know that it is there, but until you know that it is there, you can break through it, right? Have you ever heard of the expression "sky is the limit"? As in, you can go as high as you want to, but limiting belief is like a ceiling, right? You can go high up to the ceiling, and then you get stuck there. And we don't want that. We want to break through the ceiling. We want to break through the limiting belief so that our sky is our limit as well, which means that we don't have a limit. We can get to any places or accomplish anything that we we believe in. All right. And then the second barriers is the fear of failure. Failure. All right, the fear of failure is pretty obvious. It is in the name, right? You fear of failing. You have the fear of not able to accomplishing your goal, and that just stop you from the doing, right? And if you're not doing anything at all, then your chance of success is definitely zero, right? So there is an irony in this barrier, the fear of failure, right? And I'm going to say that again because you have the fear, you are afraid that you might fail, right? So in anything that we do, we can there's a percentage of success, right? And I think it is almost impossible to have like a 0% chance because even tossing like a coin lay on head and on one side 10 times in a row, even that have a possibility of happening or winning a lottery, right? The chance of winning a lottery is like one in a billions, but there is still a chance. Okay. But if you have a fear of failure that stopping you from doing anything at all, then that means that your success rate is 0%. So the fear of failure is almost like an illusion that's stopping you from doing what you love. And it is extremely important to understand this barrier, the fear of failure, because once you can get over it, you will start doing and you will increase your chance in becoming successful. And that is very, very important. Just remember that you miss 100% of the shot you do not take. That is an expression in baseball. You know how like their hit rate percentage. If you don't do anything, you are sure to get that 0% chance. Right. Okay. Next one. The barrier number three. This is fear of judgment. Fear of judgment. Have you ever had like a really, really good business plan or any strategy at all that can improve your life? And then you you told your friends, your family, your loved one, and but just right before you try to do that, you started to have a fear of them judging you, like judging your plan or judging your idea. Or maybe they will tell you that you're not gonna make it or you're not going to be able to do it. So this is the third barrier, the fear of judgment. So this is the fear that kind of coming up when you have a plan. There's something that you clearly wanted to do. You was able to break through the limiting belief, right? To come up with that idea. You you already breaking through the fear of failure. You don't worry about failing at all. But then you hit the third barrier, which is the fear of judgment. You might be afraid that other people might judge you. You know, I don't know what my parent is going to think of me. I don't know what's my let's say my wife or my boyfriend's gonna think of me, and if they're gonna judge me for doing this, and and this is what's stopping a lot of people from the doing as well. And another one that also stop people from getting to where they want it to be, that is lack of prerequisites. So what do I mean by lack of prerequisites? This is kind of related to the fear of judgment, right? So let's say you have a really good business plan. You know that you are going to be success, and then you tell your parent, and they or your or your friends, right? And they might tell you that, hey, that is a really good business plan, but do you have the money needed to invest, right? Do you have like a detailed business plan? Do you know exactly what you needed to becoming successful? And all of those are reasonable. And don't get me wrong, your family member, your parents, they 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 love you, and that's why they want you to see all perspective of things before you make a decision. But at the same time, the lack of prerequisites is the barrier where you might think or you might be afraid that you don't have the money needed or you don't have the time needed or the uh the the employee, the staff, the team member, or whoever that you needed to get help with in order to get to your destination. And on this note, let me also write number five because it has a huge connection to number three and number four as well. Yeah, write this with this color here. Number five is lack of knowledge. So lack of knowledge is kind of sounds similar to lack of prerequisite, but because it is such a just a big area in and of itself, I have to separate it from the lack of prerequisite. Because lack of knowledge, have you ever heard of the expression knowledge is power, right? Anything that we want to do, any professional fields that we want to get to, it is very important that we know about it. And that is one of the large reasons why when you apply to work for a company, they want to make sure that you meet all the requirements. They want to make sure that you know what you are doing. They want to make sure that you know the knowledge needed to perform the job. So lack of knowledge is kind of like your fear of not having enough knowledge, and that was stopping you from doing it. And one of the successful story that I personally do like a lot is the story of Facebook, of how Mark Zuckerberg, when he was only 19, when he was a student in Harvard University, he started Facebook and he had a very strong belief that he will be successful. He didn't quite know how to get there yet, and he doesn't really know how successful Facebook will be, but it doesn't stop him. He just know that he needed to do it. He just knew that he will figure it out along the way. And even when Facebook became very popular, even when Yahoo tried to buy it out for $1 billion, um, Zuckerberg was he wasn't he didn't want to sell because he know that Facebook back then wasn't where he wanted to be yet. He doesn't know how to get there. He doesn't know how to get Facebook from point A to point B. He just know that he needed to do it. So the lack of knowledge, it doesn't stop him, right? Once you have a big enough goal, once it is important enough, you don't care if you don't have 100% of the information needed. You will learn it along the way. And it's that is the same goal for lack of prerequisite. Requisite. You don't have to have everything, right? And because you don't have everything, that's why you even desire you have the desire to do it. And it is something that we have to learn along the way. And this brings me to number 6, which is the most important one. And that is lack of vision. All right. And my example for Facebook earlier also demonstrate this. Okay. So what Mark Zuckerberg had is a vision. He had the vision of Facebook and how successful it will be. And because of that, he know what he needed to do, regardless of the lack of prerequisite, regardless the lack of knowledge. Obviously, there was no fear of failure, because if there was fear of failure, he wouldn't start it. And a lot of people judge him. Okay. So imagine being 18, 19 years old, got accepted to the most famous university in the entire world, right? Where people go in there, get a degree, and they are good for life. They can build so much connection. And Mark just decided to quit. He was like, I don't want to do this anymore. So his parent would be extremely worried for him. His friend would be worrying for him. So there's a lot of judgment, but there was no fear of judgment because what Mark see was very clearly to him. And speaking to the barrier number 6, we can find the connection between all 6 of this, right? So it isn't like a six barrier where we break through one and then we see another. It might be like that, but all the six of these barriers, they are all interconnected. And for for different people, they might have to face with different barrier when they first started to do something. For example, when um when I tried to lose weight, right? The limiting belief is what hit me. I was like, I'm not able to do that. Kind of like the elephant that I told you earlier in the beginning of the of the presentation, right? Right away, I was like, I don't have time for it. I don't have I have tried it in the past. I wasn't able to do it. And how am I going to do it this time? So that for me would be number one. But for other, they might jump to fear of failure, or they might jump to fear of judgment first. So everyone is different. But one thing that I can tell you for sure is if instead of the lack of, if you can just like um, block the word lack of and you focus on vision, if you have vision, you will be able to solve every other barrier. And I know this to be the absolute truth. And I would like to share with you a story, one of my favorite story. And for all of my friends who have heard this before, this is super, super important. So let's hear it again because every time that I hear it, I learn something new. And if you have any valuable lesson that you would like to share, feel free to raise your hand. Or if you have any question related to the topic, feel free to raise your hand. And I can stop and we can discuss about it. But the story that I would like to share related to the six barriers would be the story of uh, a man named Roger Bannister, and he is from England, and he was able to break through his sixth barrier, and he was able to um, accomplish a very important goal, and that particular accomplishment not only helped himself, but is actually broke through the barriers, the limiting belief of the entire world. And every time we discuss in positive psychology, every time that we discuss in the human potential, this story often comes up. And the story is about Mr. Roger Bannister in the 1950s. And back in that time, people thought that it was impossible to run 1 mile under 4 minutes. And to give you a clear picture of how hard it is, 1 mile is equal to 1.6 kilometer, right? And if you ever see the track in the track and field in your high school, or if you go to a stadium, you see like sometimes you see like a bigger track or even like a smaller track. If you was to run around that track, it is 400 meter, which means that in order to run 1 mile under 4 minutes, you have to run around the track 4 times, which means that you have to run through the track under 1 minute. And I have tried to do that many times and failed. It it is a very, very crazy task. And back then people thought it was impossible. And the reason they were so confident about that was the fastest man alive back then, right? The a professional athlete, they have attempted to break this record so many times. But the fastest that they was able to accomplish was 4 minutes and 3 seconds. And because of that, doctors and scientists, they came together and they did all this research trying to show how impossible it is, right? How hard it is to run 1 mile under 4 minutes. In fact, they uh, they believe that it is impossible. They were showing everyone how the human joint come together, how that would be impossible, and the way that the uh, the muscle structure, how that would make it impossible to run 1 mile under a minute. And like what I mentioned earlier, how running around the track, it it is too far, and then your lung capacity is not going to be good enough. You're going to get tired and you won't be able to keep up with that 1 minute per 400 meter, which is one like good running around the track one time. So even though the entire world thought that it was impossible, Mr. Roger Bannister, he did not think so. He believed that it is possible, and better yet, he will prove it to the entire world. And he wasn't a professional athlete; he was just a student, right? He was an after graduate student. And Mr. Roger Bannister, he making an announcement that saying that he will be able to do it, and he is going to start training so that he can prove it to everyone that it is possible to run 1 mile under 4 minutes. And the interesting about Mr. Roger Bannister is that he, beside running exercises, Mr. Roger Bannister also imagined it so vividly that he will be able to run past that finish line under 4 minutes. And he constantly had that image of success. And the day come on May 6, 1954, on a cold, wet day in Oxford, England, when everyone gathered to see how the man named Roger Bannister is going to fail at the age of 25, right? Because they knew that it was impossible to run 1 mile under 4 minutes. And to everyone's surprise, right, he did the unthinkable, and he broke the 4 minute barrier of 1 mile with only about 3 seconds, 3 minutes and 59 seconds. And he was able to break that record. What's amazing about that story is not just how Mr. Roger Bannister was able to break through that record. The most important thing that we need to mention is that only within a years after that, 37 professional athlete was able to break his record. Right? Not only they accomplished the same goal of running 1 mile under 4 minutes, they actually broke his record. Many other people was able to accomplish the record of running 1 mile under 4 minutes. But 37 professional athletes actually broke his record. And then 3 years after that, over 300 professional athlete was able to accomplish the similar goal. And the question that we need to ask ourselves is, why is it that throughout hundred of years prior to the event that Mr. Roger Bannister accomplished the goal of running 1 mile under 4 minutes, why was it that nobody was able to do it? But the moment that Mr. Roger Bannister was able to did it, it became possible. And people started to break this record left and right, right? And that takes us back to the sixth barrier. Okay. If we look at number one, right, there's the limiting belief. Okay. So it wasn't just Mr. Roger Bannister, but the entire world. Initially, they thought that it was impossible to run 1 mile under 4 minutes. That is an example of a limiting belief, right? Remember what I said earlier? Limiting belief is like a ceiling. Okay. You can go as high as you want to, but you might hit the ceiling. Or if you have you ever buy like a balloon, like the one that can float, and if you let it go, and then it will float upward, right? And it will fly away. But if you let go of a balloon in your room, it will get stuck in the ceiling. So that's what limiting belief is. And in this case, the entire world had a limiting belief that it was impossible to run 1 mile under 4 minutes. And the second that Mr. Roger Bannister broke that record, it is the equivalent of breaking that barrier, the first barrier of limiting belief, not just for himself, but for the entire world, right? And even though no one had accomplished it in the past, Mr. Roger Bannister had no fear of failure. He never he never had a single doubt of the possibility of running 1 mile under 4 minutes. He did not fear the judgment, right? Because it was obvious that he was a graduate after he was a graduate student, right? That means he held a pretty high education, and he had access to a professor in his university, and I'm sure he has friends, and I'm sure he was judged a lot for having the idea of running 1 mile under 4 minutes, where in the time where people knew that it was impossible, right? Even doctors and scientists agreed that it was impossible. He didn't he didn't care about the lack of prerequisite. He was a professional athlete. He didn't train like every day or anything like that, but he just knew that he can do it. And for some reason, he thought that it was important for him to do it. And for number five, lack of knowledge. So, in a way, lack of knowledge kind of help him kind of play in his favor because if you were to be like a doctor or a scientist back at that time, you just knew that it was impossible, or you just believed that it was impossible, right? Or another word for it is your limiting belief is that it was impossible to run 1 mile under 4 minutes. Therefore, the lack of knowledge was actually play in Mr. Roger Bannister's favor, or like the example of Facebook, the uh, the lack of knowledge of how difficult it will be kind of play in favor of Mr. Mark Zuckerberg's journey, right? But the most important thing of all is the vision. Mr. Roger Bannister had the vision of accomplishing that goal. And because of that strong vision, he was able to break through all six barriers. He was able to get to his goal. And the most important thing about that, and I have to repeat it, is that he actually break through the entire world barriers when it's come to running 1 mile under 4 minutes. And because of that, many professional athletes was able to do the same thing. And 70 years later, we are still talking about it. We are still discussing it because this is extremely important, right? Because for our journey of understanding our inner self, our lit in English, people might not understand what we are doing, right? They might have the limiting belief of why do we have to understand our inner self, right? They may have the fear of failure that they might not be able to understand the inner self. Okay. They might fear that other people might judge them for doing what they do, or they might afraid that they don't have what it takes, the lack of prerequisite. They might be afraid that they don't have the information, the knowledge needed, and they don't even have the vision of understanding your inner self. But this is the journey that we are going together. Because just like Mr. Roger Bannister, once we can break through all six barriers, when we can prove to the world how important it is to understand your inner self, how important it is to take control of your life and live the life that you deserve, the good life. Then, similar to Mr. Roger Bannister, we will be able to show the world the importance of it. And then many people will come after it, right? They will be able to have that transformation. They will be able to understand their inner self. And the importance of it is that if you, I'm sure everyone here have heard of Bill Gates, right? So for the longest time, Bill Gates was the youngest and the richest billionaire in the world. And for those who doesn't know who Bill Gates is, he is the founder of Microsoft, and he make a tons of money from Microsoft, and he had a very cute vision when he was 13 years old. Bill Gates thought that there will be a time where every household will have a computer. And it is easy for us to agree with him now because not only we have computer, we like laptop and desktop, we actually have a cell phone like the one that I'm using right here. And it is obvious to us now. But back in the 60s or even the 70s, scientists and professors, they thought that it was impossible because one computer would cost a few $1 million, and a computer would you would need like the entire room to put a computer in, and only the richest and the wealthiest university can afford a computer, right? Therefore, people thought that it is impossible. They thought that computer is good, it's really good for big company, for big corporate, for the government, but regular citizen they just can't afford it. And Bill Gates, at a very young age, he knew that it was possible. Not only that, he went a step further, a step ahead of everyone. He knew that computer, the hardware of it can only compute. It cannot perform anything great without the software of the computer, which which is like application that we use for our phone, for our laptop right now. It is easier for us to know what it is, like Facebook, Telegram, or Amazon. We have like thousand and thousand of software of app in our phone that we use every day. But in the 60s, right, in the late 60s, early 70s, Bill Gates knew the importance of software, and he quit school to write software. He started Microsoft, and he was able to make billions and billions, and he created many young billionaires. And he proved it to the world that it is possible to make billions of dollars at a very young age. and he became the richest person in the entire world for, I think, 2 decades or three, right? Nobody could break through his record to be as wealthy as he was. Even the legend like Warren Buffett, the uh, the, the legendary investor, he couldn't match what Bill Gates was making. And because of that, because of Bill Gates' success, we started to see self-made billionaire getting younger and younger. We see people make crazy money, like Mark Zuckerberg with Facebook, like the founder of Twitter and Instagram, and lately TikTok making a pretty big wave. And that is the important, guys. That is the important uh, breaking through the six barriers, because we don't just break through the barrier for ourselves, right? It is important to do it for ourselves. But just know that once we can prove to the world that how important it is and how successful you can be, we can change the entire world. And let me tell you why it is important. Because the way that we live in the world, you see, there's a constant force that are making impact on us, right? We all have to deal with challenges in life. When we was younger, we had to deal with things that younger children have to do, like learning how to walk, learning how to eat, drink, learning how to read, write. There are challenges, or learning how to ride a bicycle. But as we get older, there are other challenges, like how to build a good relationship with people, how to maintain your health, right? How to become more successful with your career. So life constantly making impact on you, right? And you yourself have these barriers. This is kind of like a way to protect ourselves, right? Because this is kind of like a chicken egg, right? And if you can imagine a chicken egg, if we're making the impact from the outside in, that would mean we are about to use it as food, right? However, if the force of the impact coming from the inside out, kind of like this, right? If the little stick figure person here started to create the force from the inside out. So just like a chicken egg, that would be like life, because the chicken is breaking through the shell after 21 days incubation period, right? So similarly, in life, if we don't make the conscious choice to break through this barrier to giving ourselves life, right? Then the world will break us. Okay. Because generally, people tend to change after they experience suffering, right? And if they still do not change, then the worst kind of suffering will come for them. And if they still do not change, right, then losses will get them to change. Okay. So why do we have to wait for pain and suffering and losses to motivate us to change, right? Why can why can't we just love ourselves enough to make the change needed? Okay. And it is extremely important to have this realization and make that conscious choice to break through the barrier to give ourselves life, right? And once we are able to do that, we will be able to have a transformation. If we can do this successfully, right? The the smaller person here will grow bigger with bigger arm, bigger leg, maybe grow some hair and have a bigger belly button. And again, you yourself have to make the conscious decision to make this change because just like a chicken egg, if the impact coming from the outside in, that would mean we are about to be used as food. But if we can create the force from the inside out, then we will give ourselves life. Just like a cocoon, right? After periods of breaking through that cocoon, it can become a butterfly and it can fly away rather than spending years up crawling on the ground. And there's a very amazing story about the struggle of the butterfly as well. And I'm sure many of us have heard of this, but I would like to tell it again because it has a very important story behind it. So the struggle of the butterfly tell us about the story of a young boy, and one day the young boy found a cocoon, and he saw a very small opening appeared, and it was so amazed to him in that he has never seen this before, and he thought to himself that like he have heard that butterfly actually came from this cocoon, but he still can't quite like understand how the butterfly can come out of this round looking cocoon. So he just sat there and watched, and and he can see that the uh, the cocoon stopped making any progress. It's appeared to it's appeared that it has gotten as far as it could, and it couldn't go any further. Therefore, the young boy decided to help the butterfly. He took a pair of scissors and he sniffed up the remaining bit of the cocoon. And then the butterfly then emerged easily, but the body of the butterfly is swollen and small with a silver wings. And the young boy continued to watch the butterfly, hoping that at any moment now, the wing would enlarge, would expand, and it will be able to support the body, and the butterfly will fly in no time. And it will be very amazing to see this with his own eye, and he will have an amazing story to tell. But contrary to that, the butterfly wasn't able to fly, and the butterfly spent the rest of its day crawling around with its swollen body. What the young boy did not understand is that because of his kindness and haste, he didn't understand that the restriction of the cocoon and the struggle is what required for the butterfly to get through that tiny opening, and that is a way to the fluid or the liquid from the body of the butterfly into its wing. And that was necessarily for the butterfly to get its wing ready so that it can achieve freedom, so that it can get free from the cocoon so it can fly away. And it's demonstrating what I said earlier about a chicken egg. Because if we are allowing the impact from the outside in, that would mean that the world is about to use us as food, right? However, if the force coming from the inside out, then we will be able to keep ourselves alive. Therefore, sometime in life, when uh, when we get unnecessarily help from others, like the young boy and the cocoon, it's kind of backfire. And many times it is important for us to realize that there are changes we need to make in order to grow bigger, in order to break these through the sixth barrier, so that we can accomplish great things like Mr. Roger Bannister did, just like what Bill Gates and many other great people did. They they decided to take control of their life. They have the vision, okay, instead of lack of vision. They have the vision, and it was important enough that it breaking through the remaining five barriers: limiting belief, fear of failure, fear of judgment, lack of prerequisite, lack of knowledge, lack of vision. They was able to have the vision, and they have a strong belief to break through all of those barriers to get to their vision, to get to their dream. Because believe me, whatever dream, whatever vision that you have, the thing that you feel strongly toward, it has a very, very important meaning. You might not understand it now, just like the butterfly, right? It might not understand how important it is to break through the cocoon so that it can fly. It might not understood that yet. But somewhere deep down when it was in that cocoon, it knew that it has to break through and it will be coming. It will have that transformation to becoming something great, to becoming something beautiful. And just like the butterfly, it is very important for us to make the conscious choice to give ourselves life, to get us ready to to accomplishing our deepest desire. Because I'm sure every one of us are here for a reason. We we have different journey, and we have different things that we want to accomplish in life, right? And if we if we let the six barriers that stopping that amazing goal from us, then we might be like the butterfly. We might not be able to fly, and we might go through life questioning what is our purpose, why are we here, what are we doing, or what we could have been if we were strong enough to to go with our desire, right? Imagine, like, put yourself in Bill Gates' shoes, put yourself in Mark Zuckerberg's shoes. If they didn't make the decision to quit college, to go after their dream, even though people doubt them, right? People didn't think that it was possible. They might even think Bill Gates and Mark Zuckerberg was crazy. Their desire was strong enough. They had a vision and they went all in. And I strongly believe that they are living a very fulfilling life by facing the challenge head on. And we can do something very similar. I don't know what your dream is. I don't know what your goal is or are. What I can tell you is in this journey, we will learn to understand our inner self. We will provide you the principle and the reference system needed to take back control, to have that transformation, to give yourself life. Because I know whichever desire that you have, I know that it can be very much different from mine. But I also know that it is very, very important for you to accomplish in your goals, to materialize your dream. We all have it. But if we allowing the six barriers stopping us from doing what we were supposed to do, kind of like the young boy unknowingly snipped through that cocoon where the butterfly couldn't fly, he would have to find a different cocoon. He would have to find a different butterfly to accomplishing that goal, to break through the cocoon to fly. If we didn't have Mr. Roger Bannister, we might have to wait for many decades for someone else to do it. If we didn't have Bill Gates, we might have to wait for years to get what we have had. And I do believe that this is one of the very main reasons why Mr. Elon Musk, one of my idol, I think this is why he is working so hard in the past 20, 30 years to get to where he is today. And he's saying that he wanted to ensure the next generation have a future. And I deeply believe in this. And I believe that we can start by breaking through the six barriers, by proving to the world what is possible. And we will do this together. And this is the end of my very first presentation. If you have any question or anything that would like to share, feel free to raise your hand. But I really, really appreciate you spending your precious time here, especially Han Jung or Vanessa, because I know that it is 3 a.m. where you live, and you you stay up late with us to go on this journey, and I respect that a lot, and I'm sure we all understand how important this is, and I couldn't do this alone. So I would like to personally thanks everyone for joining us, for going on this journey together. This might be the first step, but it is a very, very important first step.